It's a sad thing, you know. Loving someone who can't love you back. It's even worse when that love is supposed to be for your children, and you can't even give them what they need because you never received it yourself. For years, Nkechi carried that sadness like a weight on her back. The burden of raising 8 children alone, the whispers of family members who blamed her for everything, the sleepless nights wondering if her children would ever understand why their father left. She had hardened herself to the pain, bearing it under work, survival, and the love she poured into her children. But deep inside, there was always a question: why? Her children asked the same question, though not in words. Their anger spoke for them. To them, their father, Chijioke, was nothing but a selfish man who abandoned them without looking back. He never called. He never sent money. He never checked if they ate, if they went to school, if they even survived. In their eyes, he simply disappeared and never cared what became of them. Years passed, and the children grew into adults, still carrying the wounds of his absence. Some of them buried their resentment deep inside, while others let it shape them, turning their pain into anger, into coldness. None of them understood. Until one day, Ikenna, one of the younger sons, stumbled upon the truth. He was studying anatomy at the university, going through a lecture on neurological disorders, when he first heard about autism. As the professor listed the symptoms, something inside him shifted. The childhood stories he had heard about his father, the screaming fits, the long silences, the way he never seemed to understand emotions the way others did, suddenly made sense. For the first time, he saw his father not as a cruel man, but as someone who had been struggling his entire life with a condition no one understood. Ikenna couldn't let it go. He spent weeks researching autism, reading about how it affects children, how it carries into adulthood, how it explains the very things they had mistaken for wickedness. The more he learned, the clearer the picture became. Chijioke hadn't left because he wanted to. He left because his mind worked differently, because life overwhelmed him in ways no one had ever recognized. Armed with this discovery, Ikenna went home and sat his mother down. At first, Nkechi just listened, her face unreadable. But as he continued, explaining the symptoms, comparing them to the stories she had told about Chijioke's childhood, something inside her broke. All these years, she whispered, tears slipping down her cheeks. I thought he didn't love us. She wasn't the only one who needed to hear the truth. Ikenna called his siblings together for a family meeting. Some of them resisted at first, unwilling to let go of the anger they had carried for so long. But as he spoke, calmly, patiently, showing them everything he had learned, their resentment began to waver. It didn't erase the years of pain. It didn't undo what their father's absence had done to them. But it gave them something they had never had before, understanding. For the first time in years, they spoke about their father without bitterness. And then, they made a decision. They would find him. They knew where he lived, a quiet, distant town, far from the life he had left behind. When they arrived, they found him sitting outside a small, worn-down house, staring at the sky. He was thinner than they remembered, older, with a face that looked both empty and peaceful at the same time. He didn't react when he saw them, only blinking as if trying to process why they were there. Nkechi was the first to step forward. She didn't speak right away. She simply sat beside him, just as she used to all those years ago. And then, after a long silence, she smiled. Not with love, not with longing, but with something just as powerful. Forgiveness. From that day on, they visited him often. They didn't expect him to change. They didn't ask him to return. But they made sure he knew he wasn't alone. And in showing him love, they finally allowed themselves to heal.